Hey everybody, Farand, Wasiak here. I'm here with Randy Stone, the chair for CIFR and eCIFR at IACIS. Randy, how you doing today?
Doing pretty well. It's almost done the week 2 and we're ready for it to be done.
Yes, it goes by quick, but there's a lot of information being distributed and absorbed for these 2 weeks.
It's a lot of time, so.
Drinking from a fire hose. Randy, it's no secret. I've been trying to get you on since this podcast started. You had nowhere to go. You can't leave this building.
I'm a hostage here, so here I am.
He's not being held against his will, but he's not free to go. Randy, tell us a little about yourself and law enforcement, digital forensics, your history.
All right, so I started with the Wichita, Kansas Police Department in 1987. Wichita State University before that. The degree in criminal justice, ironically, the same degree that Dennis Rader ended up with. So 23 years with WPD, last 12 of that doing computer crimes. We started the computer crime unit when I was assigned to narcs, undercover narcotics, and we'd go do a search warrant, you'd arrest them, you'd take their drugs and their money and their guns and whatever else, and you look at the computer sitting on the table and say, wish there's something we could do with that, and we just kind of shrug and turn around and walk out. So I started doing some research. And so there is this thing called computer forensics, fairly new, not a lot of people doing it. I checked around, there's actually one person, Dave Schroeder with the KBI, who was doing kind of part-time forensics. So we talked to him about it and what it was and what you needed and everything. And myself and another detective, Mike Manow, we can do this. So we found a federal grant that would pay for the training equipment and everything. Convinced the department this was a great idea, and they said, sure, whatever, it'll never happen. And sure enough, we got the grant. So we started the computer crime unit for the Wichita Police Department. So, yep.
Wow. Okay, so you started it. Where did you go initially? This is maybe in the caveman days of computer forensics compared to now. Where did you go seek training at? It was
So one of my first trainings, I think was Search put on a training, actually there in Wichita. So I went to there. It was like a 3-4 day class. I came here to Orlando in 98 or 99 for my first BCFE. So I got it took me almost a full year to have time to do my certification. Yeah, so I've been certified since like 99 or something like that. NTI software at Gresham, Oregon.
Okay.
I think Mike Anderson, he had one of the early founders here.
Yep.
He had his own training company and software company. So those are some of the main ones we did initially.
So then you mentioned IACIS. So you came in the almost the beginning or before the turn of the century. Now, how did you evolve from Randy Stone, the IACIS student, to the chair of CIFR and eCIFR?
So concurrent to my law enforcement, I was also Army Reserve, 25 years Army Reserve. And I did 20 years military police, and then I switched over to Signal Corps to do instant response, intrusions, pen testing, that kind of stuff for the Army. And that was kind of where I started getting into the enterprise level architecture knowledge of, you go to some guy's double wide trailer, you kick in his door, you take his 3 laptops or whatever, you go home.
Right.
There's no domain controllers, there's no SIM, there's no XDR, there's no enterprise level tooling within that. So the military is where I first started getting exposed to that. So then I retired. I retired from law enforcement, and went to work for IBM. And so I'm working for IBM. And when I was in law enforcement, I felt like I've been to all the trainings. I'm like, there's 4 of us in the entire state of Kansas doing forensics. And I'm one of those 4 that we're at the top of the game. Then I got into corporate incident response, and I found like I had no idea what I was doing. I was good at one thing, dead box Windows forensics. I couldn't do Linux. I couldn't do log analysis. There was so much I couldn't do. So what I did then over the next couple of years, I kept track of what I had to learn in order to be functional at incident response, IT security, that kind of stuff. And with that, then myself and Rob Blader, we wrote a 1-week version of CIFR, and it was called NFA, Network Forensics Analysis. And within about 3 years of doing that, we found out that 1 week's not enough. So we rewrote the course into 2-week. And rebranded as CIFR, Cyber Incident Forensic Response. So that's what it is now. We actually, this year, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary for CIFR.
10-year anniversary. I knew it's been around a long time. This is almost like when you see musicians, they tell you, they were in a room when they wrote their hit song,
Yeah.
and it went to #1, and then 40 years later, the Eagles are still on tour. But can you go? So CIFR's been around for 10 years, and then you developed. Well, let's go through this first. What goes on in the first 2 weeks, or the 2 weeks in CIFR? Just like I guess a quick lesson plan, the progression for those 2 weeks of class.
So like I say, it's mapped out basically. Here's the stuff I had to learn in order to be functional at incident response. So and there's other training organizations out there that have similar type of content, but it might be like you buy 10 grand, you buy a week of RAM analysis.
Okay.
Here we have 1 day of RAM analysis, but the reality is you don't need a week of RAM analysis. You need to be able to run the tools and be decently at our level. 1 day is enough to get you started. So we have a lot of 1 day events where other training organizations might have, here's a week of this one topic.
Sure.
So you're a mile deep, but you're only an inch wide.
Right.
Right. And frankly, we can't afford for every skill topic. You can't afford a 10 grand class.
Right.
And a week worth of stuff. So what we started doing, day one is just the basics. Your terminology, architecture. What is a switch? What's a router? What's a firewall? What is Active Directory? What's a domain controller? We have some labs to do stuff that's like really basic, like we're going to join a domain. We're going to show you we're going to talk about what is domain controller, what are the difference between domain and local accounts, and one of your labs, you're going to join a domain. Because so many of like law enforcement cops coming out of law enforcement,
right.
They've never joined a domain. They've never run net commands. Some of them have never remote desktop. So it's a very basic skill that many of them have just never done. But you don't want to be the guy that holds your hand up and says, I've never done that. I've never done this very basic thing. And so the first day and a half or so are a lot of basics.
Okay.
And then, so that's all Monday. Tuesday morning is, we kind of use the analogy that, within the realm of incident response, you've got witnesses to the crime. So just like you have your burglary crime scene and you go to your neighbors, so they have Ring doorbell cameras or whatever they might have.
Sure.
But like a Ring doorbell camera on the neighbor is not going to see the entire crime. It's going to see the burglar driving away or whatever. So same type of concept. In incident response, you're going to have all of these different potential witnesses. Or you can have firewalls, endpoint detection, whatever it might be. But not any single one of them saw the entire crime.
Right.
So they all saw pieces of the crime like a puzzle. Now we have to get all the puzzle pieces and put them back together. And to complicate things, imagine if you're working a large crime scene, and your crime scene actually involves 4 countries in 6 different time zones, and your witnesses speak 3 different languages.
Right. Yeah.
So the mechanics then of just how do you collect the evidence, collect the data? First, you have to know what part of the crime could that witness have seen, and then what language do they speak, and how to properly ask questions to give you the information you need to help solve the crime. Then you put all the puzzle pieces together, and invariably you're going to have a puzzle that there's pieces missing.
Okay.
So from that, you then have to use, the last time I did this, we had those pieces. So here's what I think goes in that space.
That's pretty cool. That's a good analogy. That's actually an excellent analogy.
Yep. So that's Tuesday morning. Tuesday afternoon is 4 hours on Wireshark. First Wednesday is all day Linux command line for log analysis. Thursday is all day of remote imaging, remote analysis, like remote imaging, like do an SSH command, connect your remote systems, and then execute a DD imaging back through your SSH tunnel, back to you.
Wow.
So we do that. We do the afternoon is 4 hours of Lost Raptor. Friday morning is timeline, and then the rest of Friday, we have a couple of log analysis exercises. Second Monday is Windows analysis specific for malware and intrusion artifacts, where a lot of people doing Windows analysis already, but what is it? A lot of prove your suspect, open the pictures, knew they were there,
right,
knowingly intentionally possess, whatever. That's where a lot of them are. So they can already do Windows analysis, but we're doing Windows analysis with a different purpose, and different focus. Right. So that is the first Monday, Windows event logs, Windows analysis. This second Monday. The second Tuesday is the same thing on Linux.
Okay.
There's a session on, let me tell you about Linux. And then we have a compromised Linux image. We just go through it all afternoon. Second Wednesday, RAM analysis. Second Thursday is malware analysis. And then at the end of the second Thursday, so during the whole 2 weeks, we've been attacking the systems. And the lab we actually have is in the classroom, we have wireless access points connected to a pfSense router. That pfSense has a site-to-site VPN tunnel with an environment in Azure. So inside of Azure, we spin up about 50 virtual machines, and that's like the corporate network.
Sure.
And every student has their own VM. So when we say, oh, you need to do some analysis, do whatever, they're one-to-one across the network on their VM.
Wow.
And during the 2 weeks, we're attacking the entire environment. And with the intent of that's going to generate artifacts on the endpoint that they're going to analyze. And then the end of the second Thursday, we show them some attack process. They watch the attack go as we run ransomware across the training environment, then we encrypt all the VMs. So once their VM is encrypted, now they have to start incident response. So they have to get a RAM dump across wire, they have to get an image of their system, and then we spend all day Friday actually doing analysis.
All day tomorrow on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, well, until they just give up.
Until they
give up. Yeah.
That's so you have this. It sounds like it's a productive 2 weeks, but also it sounds exhausting. And then they have that final. It's almost like those, if you're, basic training and you got to do the 13-mile march at your last day.
Yep, that's it. And you don't learn how to shoot your M16 by watching a bunch of PowerPoints.
Right.
You got to get out there and put some lead down range, get out on the range, and so we spend a lot of range time.
That's awesome. How many classes? How many students is a typical CIFR class? Before it gets out of control?
Yeah, so we've got actually 36 information in class this time. We usually run between 20 and 30.
Yeah.
A lot of things factor into that. The typical audience for CIFR is not a lot of local law enforcement is doing this kind of stuff.
Okay.
More feds would be doing it, but there's a lot of it is just understanding it.
Sure.
Like we had one of the guys that went through eCIFR last year. He found me earlier this week and said he got home and within a couple of days, a neighboring police agency actually got encrypted. So they called him to explain to them what to do.
What to do.
So even though he wasn't doing the analysis, by virtue of having done the class, he knew the mechanics of the process of how to run and that kind of thing. Yeah. So audience, to some extent, local agencies, those that are actually doing incident response, doing that kind of thing. Corporate IT security.
Okay.
We've had several professors from universities come and take the class and say that now they're going to go home and they're going to build a semester-long class that mirrors what we did during the 2-week class.
Sure. That happens, they give out, you could get a digital forensics bachelor's degree now.
Right. Yeah.
And if, usually most of our professional training is 36 hours, 1 week with 36 or 40 hours. And that's a whole semester for a college professor. They just draw everything out. And of course they only have 50-minute or an hour, 20-minute, lectures, 3 or twice a week. So that happens quite a bit. Somebody that doesn't know anything about computers, I'm not saying that, somebody with no knowledge of any kind of network intrusion, can they take this class and not get lost? Like your basic, cop. We got a man who knows how to do dead box forensics but doesn't have any network training whatsoever. Would they be able to survive it?
So probably, you have to have some skills.
Sure.
It is a kind of advanced specialized class. So, CIFR is a specialized class, then eCIFR, kind of a 1-week follow-on class is the advanced version of CIFR. So there does have to be a basic competency and skill set.
Okay.
You don't have to have a CFCE in order to take it, but you do need to be able to, like we talk forensics. Like you're going to open up a forensic image several times during the class, so you need to be able to understand what is forensics and how to do it and that kind of thing.
Okay. We're talking eCIFR. Do you have to take CIFR first to take eCIFR?
So you don't have to. So eCIFR is kind of the natural follow-on. So at a CIFR level, you have, I train you on how to analyze one system across the wire.
Right.
Building, developing those basic concepts. And then eCIFR is, we're going to take those basic concepts and now you're going to analyze the attack across all the systems in Azure instead of just your system. Okay. So basically we're using the same concepts, but now we're using enterprise tooling like XDR, ElkStack SIM, Velociraptor, those type of things where you're going to analyze the entire attack across the entire organization and not just the attack on your
Not
system.
just attack on that.
So you do have, I mean, it is an advanced version of CIFR. So you do have to have comparable knowledge, whether you attended CIFR or not, but you need to have a basic understanding of what to look for, because now you're going to use different tooling in order to go look for it everywhere.
Okay. What's the class size for eCIFR?
Usually they're pretty small. We've run that 2 or 3 times, I think.
Okay.
So yes, usually less than 10 at this point. So we certainly want to do more, but some of it is just getting the word out there, getting enough people that's been through CIFR that are operating in the enterprise space in order for them to get the benefit of attending that kind of class. Like a lot of law enforcement going through it, they're not going to have EDR, they're not going to have a SIM, they're not going to have, so there's not a lot of value for them
Okay.
at that point, because that's not going to be a tool they're going to have.
How many instructors do you have working with you?
So I've got 5 on site right now, and then one of them part-time assists, another one part-time assists, and then I have one whose fiance decided this year they're going to take a Southern Hemisphere around the world tour, so he was not available to come
Gotcha.
this year. So whatever that 5, 6, 7 or so, 7 or 8.
And you guys break up the training blocks? You trade off, or is it so now that
Yeah.
everybody's just up there?
Yeah, now we trade off, and we've got several of them are kind of new, so they're not doing much of the training yet.
Right.
They're road coaching, but they'll pick up some classes going forward. So
Awesome. Anything else about CIFR or eCIFR, Randy?
no,
No, we're good,
that's
we're
it.
good on that. It sounds like a great class. I know it's very popular. It's one of the most popular classes. It does sound intense, but with high intensity comes high reward, right?
yeah, we are working on in conversation for a certification process.
Oh, nice.
And a certification, it will probably be similar like the BCFE certification,
Okay.
where like it isn't just here's one Windows image, like the recertification. Oh, here's Windows image or whatever, and boom, you're done. Now, because we have to hit on like 5 or 6 topics.
Sure.
I mean, log analysis, RAM analysis, malware analysis, Linux and Windows analysis, and PCAP. So you look like 6 problems in order to do the certification process. So that obviously takes a while to build and the skill set. So
Okay, nice. I just want to shift lanes here, change gears. In the beginning of this podcast, you mentioned the name Dennis Rader, or you also mentioned Wichita. Dennis Rader is more commonly known in American folklore, I guess, as well, who?
as the BTK killer.
BTK Killer.
Yep, bind, torture, kill.
You worked on that case.
I did, yeah.
I believe it was maybe Wichita is where Park City, is that another town maybe he hit?
Yeah, Park City is a suburb just north of Wichita.
And then it was 10 plus victims-ish, right? I don't know the exact.
10 attributed victims.
Okay, all right. And he communicated with you or to the police through media stations, the media.
Right, yeah, send communication to the news media.
Okay. Were they more, it was tauntings or just messages of like, was he planning his next steps when he would?
So some of both. Some of it was taunting. The first known killings attributed to him was 4 members out of a family in 1974.
Okay.
He kind of, in doing the interviews, talks about his phases. Like he has the trolling phase where he's always just kind of driving around, whatever, just watching for candidate victims.
Right.
He would have a lot of candidate victims he would get from his trolling stage. And then he would then select some of them and start stalking them and basically doing the recon and that type of thing, and to validate whether they would then become a victim or he would move on to something else. So his first known victims, as we understand, he was driving his wife to work due to a snowstorm, and he drove past the Otero's house and saw several of them out in the front yard. And so that was when they came up then on the radar for him as stalking victims, then the trolling phase, and then he started stalking them and got more information. So,
And then he disappeared for a while, right?
so he was
A
off and
dormant
on.
phase?
Yeah, so there was not a quick recognition or linking together of a variety of killings to a serial killer.
Okay.
So we had a variety of unsolved killings, but they were not mapped to each other as the same person. So yeah, there was like I said, totally known 10. There's also obviously the argument of he traveled quite a bit.
Yeah.
There are others within the state of Kansas and surrounding states that are similar style during the same time frame. but they're not able to attribute those to him, and he won't admit to them. I mean, during the interview, he was very much he's not going to admit to anything that might get him a death penalty.
I got you.
Yeah. So if there is anything else out there, at this point, it's gonna be difficult to attach it to him. I know, like there was a sheriff in Oklahoma recently who had a missing girl from 1976, I think it was, 2 years after the Oteros, and Rader was in that area at work, and the sheriff actually went and talked to him, and Rader placed himself in that area at that time, but wouldn't admit to it.
Wouldn't admit to it. Yeah. Now, this is a digital forensics podcast, so, which probably means there's a digital forensics nexus to the BTK investigation. Correct.
There is, yeah.
Right. Tell us how Randy Stone got involved in the BTK killer investigation.
So I had just come home from a second deployment through the military, got home, and within like a month of me getting home, there was a newspaper article where there was a newspaper story where the reporter had gone out and was talking about the 30-year anniversary of the killing of the Oteros. So within that story, he talked about a local attorney who was writing a book on the BTK killer. And part of the reason for that book was the attorney was teaching a college class, and he mentioned his college class, Wichita Serial Killer. And all these kids had no idea what he's talking about. So it had been lost in time. For years, all the professionals say he couldn't be dormant this long. So he's either dead, moved away, or incarcerated. So he's writing this book. Evidently, Dennis Rader read that news story and said, well, I'm the most qualified to write a book.
Sure.
And so he then started communicating with the news media, and every communication was assigned a chapter number. So he basically had 13 chapters, and as he would then have a communication, he would identify which chapter is related to. So that all started. I got involved initially because they stood up the email hotline, the phone call hotline, and everything. And they would get emails from whatever, and there may be something about the email that they want to identify who was sending it. So I would then do the search warrants or subpoenas to the internet service providers, identify who it was. They would go out and do DNA swabs, whatever it was. So that was my initial part of it. And then we got involved with some of the online chat. There was several boards that were popular at the time that we get. So we'd hang out and they would just chat. And the goal there was to try to identify, is there somebody reasonable that, BTK would participate in some of those? And
absolutely, right.
He liked the notoriety and everything,
Right.
so it's reasonable that he would be in there, talking about stuff and maybe disclose, information that only he would know or something like that. So you're someone who's trying to be the big guy there in the room. So we ended up doing send a subpoena to the local newspaper to identify some of their people who were participating in the chat that they were hosting. So we did that. At one point in time, there was a communication from BTK saying he had been involved in a death of a 17-year-old in the county southwest. So we did the analysis on that. That boy's computer found out there was no ability to connect them. So we did those. And then off and on, we had these different drops, and he would, they would put dolls in the boxes. He got a point where he thought it was funny. I guess there's kind of a sick logic to it. He would have these like cereal boxes that he would put the dolls and the note and jewelry and stuff in there and leave it somewhere, call the news media, hey, there's a drop at this location. And then they would go out and find it and do all this kind of stuff. And the delivery mechanism in these cereal boxes, because he's a serial killer.
Okay, that is kind of witty.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of witty. It was kind of like, oh yeah, but that was kind of his mentality. He thought that was funny. So,
Sure.
So one of those drops was at the Home Depot on the northeast side of town, and went through a variety of exercises to get the box and everything. But we ended up getting the box, and there was a piece of paper, and it was titled "Communication," which is supposed to be communication. He struggled with spelling, so communication. And then within that short little paragraph, he asked, can he communicate with us using a floppy disk without being caught? And told us to be honest. And if so, we were supposed to respond back to him with a personal ad in the local paper. So Lieutenant Landwehr came to me and said, hey, can we do anything with this? Yeah, so here's best case scenario.
Right.
So we responded, personal ad in the paper, said, yes, it's okay. And then about a week or two later, KSAS Fox News on the west side of town received a package from him in the mail. And it was, again, his kind of mentality is KSAS Fox News because his favorite victim was Nancy Fox.
Wow.
So he would tie all these things together like
Yeah.
that. So in that package was a floppy disk. So they, the detective went out and got it. I was there at the office. They brought it in. We imaged it, and we brought up, did the analysis on it. And so on the floppy disk was one Word document, testa.rtf. So we opened up the Word document, file properties, and just looked at the properties for the metadata about the document itself. So within the metadata, there were several things that were attributed to. So one of them was Christ Lutheran Church.
Okay.
There was another field that said Park City Community Public Library. And then there was another field that said last saved by Dennis. So, so just, okay, maybe there's a Dennis related to either the library or Christ Lutheran Church.
Right.
So Googled Christ Lutheran Church, went to the church's website. On the left side, left column, there's a button to click on or a link to click on for basically people of the church. So at the very top of the list was congregational president Dennis Rader.
Wow.
So it's kind of like, oh, yeah, we'll start there. Yeah, and I kind of joke about like, I'm sitting there doing this stuff. There's like 25 people in a semicircle around behind me.
Sure.
And so we do all this with Google, Christ Lutheran Church, boom, name Congressional President Dennis Rader. It looked like there's nobody behind me now. It's like the cartoons where you just see this little piece of paper floating down the corridor. So, and then it was just, everybody went everybody's way. They looked us up to see where he lived. He lives in Park City. During the drop at the Home Depot security cameras got a dark colored Jeep Cherokee on camera related to the drop. So they went by the house, parked in the driveway, is a dark colored Jeep Cherokee. So yep, there's a lot to tie it to him. So so that was the forensic part of it.
And so he started in what, probably 1975, 74.
74 was the first known ones.
And the floppy disk happened what year?
2005.
2005. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that moment for you, that moment for digital forensics, the importance of digital forensics in police work, and the importance for everybody involved in this conference, that had to, I think you said, put us on the map.
Yeah. It was a perfect storm of great things to happen.
Right.
So one, there was a lot of building up of the relationship, like part of the FBI, the profiler's discussion with Lieutenant Landwehr and everything. Like when Lieutenant Landwehr was doing the news media brief, he wasn't talking to the news media. He was talking to
Sure. Yeah.
Because he's trying to build that even right down to when we arrested him and did the car stop, and they told Landwehr, so you can't participate in the arrest. You're going to sit in the car and you're going to wait for them to bring him to you, because we don't want to break that trust.
Right.
So they had to build that level of trust, and during the interview that was evident that because literally at the very end, and they used the floppy disk, as part of the conversation. At the very end, Dennis Rader's going I got a question to ask you, and he's tapping on the floppy disk. Says, why did you lie to me? And Landwehr's like, I was trying to catch you. Well, yeah, but I know we had such a good thing going.
Right.
He went for that hook, line and sinker.
Wow.
Yeah. So they did a great job building that relationship. But all the evidence was collected. All the crime scene stuff. We need to have the DNA stuff from a killing in 1974.
Sure.
That you could do DNA back then.
Right.
But all the crime scene efforts for all the crimes to gather the evidence that linked all of them together. You had that. You had just the fact that at that time computer forensics was not a thing. Like there was literally 4 of us in the entire state of Kansas could do that. And if you look at it now, it was not that difficult. The actual, open the file properties, boom, right there. Technically, it's not that difficult. But back then, like I said, there was 4 people in the entire state of Kansas could do that.
Couldn't know how to do it.
Yeah. So the fact that we even had a computer crime unit with the right skill set, we had that, and then I mean all the crime scene stuff, the way everybody worked together. We used, I think, for the arrest weekend, somewhere I've done the math on, it's like we used like 225 people to arrest one guy.
Wow.
So
That's manpower.
yeah.
That is awesome. So it's just a floppy disk essentially sent to the police by the suspect. He trusted you when you said, oh yeah, no, it's safe. We can't do anything with a floppy disk. And it was a deleted Word document and last saved by.
Yeah.
That's what got him, the last saved by.
Last say by, and
That's-
and the software's registered.
Yeah.
What we think happens, so as the congressional president, they have the periodic meetings that
Sure.
he presides over. So the secretary of the church would send him the agenda for the meeting. But his computer at home was broken, so he couldn't put it on a floppy disk. So his wife went to the library, downloaded the file onto a floppy disk, gave it to him. He took it to church. He took it to work. The first line of the document was Christ Lutheran Church. Like the second line to be agenda or something like
Right.
that. And you know how when you go to save the document the first time, if you don't give it a name, it just takes the first line as, oh, here's your name.
Correct.
Yeah, so Christ Lutheran Church was the document title. Because she downloaded the library and probably opened it, whatever, somehow it populated with the library stuff. Now he's at work, logged into his work computer. When he takes the agenda, does whatever he's doing with it, deletes the agenda, types in his little message, and saves it. So that's the way we're chaining together all those
Sure.
artifacts to get to where we
Yeah.
ended up. Yeah, so that was, again, 2005, forensics was not totally new, but there had not been a super awesome event up to that point. There's been a lot since then. A lot of really great things done with forensics, but that was like one of the very first ones that was publicly known and to demonstrate just what is and the value of computer forensics.
That's good. Anything else on BTK before we wrap it up?
No, I think he's got another 100 years or so left of a sentence.
Another 100. Is he still writing? Is he still? I know prisoners are allowed to write letters. Is he doing anything?
Yeah, he has his little fan. So I worked some with the Oklahoma sheriff who was trying to explore whether whether there was a connection with his missing girl from '76. Unfortunately, then that sheriff didn't run for re-election, so that's kind of dead. So we may never know that answer. But so I worked with him on some of that. So that process, Raider does have kind of his little fan club. If people write to him, whatever, he can call them and different stuff. So we did some work kind of in that area, kind of looking to see, can we identify communications or something that might help with this. Some interesting things within that, but yeah, I think he's really old at this point. I think he's in and out of a wheelchair. I mean, he's in not great health.
Okay.
So it's probably just a matter of not a whole lot of time.
Not a whole lot of time.
So hopefully something will happen between now and then that he'll be willing to confess that there's more. So there's, a lot of others in the area that, are the same style. And, if he wanted to become famous again, like hardly anyone's heard of him anymore, but if he wanted to become famous again, he can basically come out with some more disclosures. I mean, they're not going to do anything to him.
Right.
Like,
Correct.
Put him in prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
We'll get his name back in the paper. I guess.
yeah. So if he was to come out with some more disclosure and stuff like that, that would clear a lot of stuff. But not, it's not going to hurt him to do that.
That's true. That's true. You don't need Netflix for true crime drama. You only need the IACIS podcast. Randy Stone, incredible story.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks.
for finally coming on. I'm Farand Wasiak. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to check out CIFR and eCIFR at IACIS for your training needs. And that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thanks again, Randy.
Thanks.
Awesome.